The night my family threw me out of my own home, my father looked me straight in the eyes and said something I would never forget. "You have nothing here anymore. Leave." I stood frozen in the middle of the living room, holding a small suitcase in one hand while my younger brother, Daniel, stood beside my father with a satisfied smile. I had spent 28 years of my life in that house. My mother had passed away 5 years earlier. After her death, I became the one who took care of everything. I paid bills, repaired the house, helped my father with his business, and even supported Daniel when he was struggling financially. I never asked for anything in return. That was my mistake. For months, Daniel had been telling my father that I was secretly taking money from the family business. It was a lie. But my father believed him. "You've been stealing from us," Dad said. My chest tightened. "That's not true. Show me the evidence." Daniel stepped forward. "We don't need evidence anymore. Dad trusts me." I looked at my father, hoping he would defend me. He didn't. Instead, he pointed toward the front door. "Get out." I felt something inside me break. "Dad, this is my home too." He shook his head. "Not anymore." I packed what little I could carry. As I walked toward the door, Daniel whispered, "Where will you go now?" I stopped. For the first time that night, I looked directly at him. "You'll find out." Then I walked into the cold night. I spent the next several weeks sleeping in a cheap rented room and working 2 jobs. But while my family believed I was destroyed, I was rebuilding myself. One evening, I received an unexpected phone call. It was from an old businessman named Mr. Anderson, who had known my mother before she died. "I heard what happened," he said. I was silent. Then he asked, "Do you still want to prove what you're capable of?" "Yes." "Good," he replied. "Because I have an offer for you." What I didn't know was that this phone call would completely change my life. And 6 months later, I would walk back through the same doors my family had forced me out of. But this time, I wouldn't be coming back as their son. I would be coming back as their boss. Mr. Anderson offered me a position at his company. At first, I thought it was simply another job. It wasn't. He had watched me work for years and knew I understood the business better than most people realized. Within 3 months, I was managing major accounts. Within 6 months, I became one of the company's most trusted executives. But there was something else happening behind the scenes. Mr. Anderson's company was preparing to acquire several smaller businesses. One of them was my father's company. When I saw the name on the documents, my hands went still. It was the same company I had helped build from the ground up. The company where I had worked late nights. The company where I had sacrificed my savings. The company my father now believed I had stolen from. I looked at Mr. Anderson. "You're buying my family's company?" He nodded. "Yes. And I want you to lead the acquisition." I couldn't speak. Then he placed another folder in front of me. "There's something you need to see." Inside were financial records. Thousands of dollars had been transferred from the company into Daniel's personal accounts. My father had blamed me for stealing. But Daniel had been stealing from them. I kept reading. There were fake invoices, secret accounts, and payments to companies that didn't even exist. My brother had created an entire scheme to make me look guilty. And there was one more shocking discovery. My father had signed documents giving Daniel control over several company assets. Daniel hadn't just wanted me out. He wanted complete control. I felt anger rising inside me. But Mr. Anderson stopped me. Don't destroy him emotionally. Beat him professionally. Those words stayed with me. I decided not to expose Daniel immediately. Instead, I would let him believe he had one. Over the next few months, the acquisition moved forward. My father became increasingly desperate because the company was drowning in debt. Then the final meeting was scheduled. The buyer would be announced. My family expected a wealthy businessman to walk through the door. They had no idea who would actually enter. That morning, I stood in front of the mirror wearing a black suit. For a moment, I remembered the night I had left with my suitcase. I remembered my father's words. "You have nothing here anymore." I smiled quietly. Because now I had something they could never take away from me. My success. When I entered the conference room that afternoon, my father looked up. His face turned pale. Daniel stopped smiling. I placed a folder on the table and calmly said, "Good afternoon, gentlemen." My father stared at me. "What are you doing here?" I pulled out a chair. "I'm here to finalize the acquisition." Daniel laughed nervously. "You?" I looked at him. "Yes." Then I added the words that silenced the entire room. "I'm your new boss." For several seconds, nobody spoke. My father stared at me as if he were looking at a stranger. Daniel finally laughed. "This is ridiculous. You don't own this company." I placed the acquisition documents on the table. "No. I don't." Daniel smiled. Then I continued. "But the company that now owns it does." His smile disappeared. I turned toward my father. "6 months ago, you threw me out because you believed I stole from your business." Dad lowered his eyes. "I was told you had taken money." "I know." I opened the first folder. "Daniel told you." My brother immediately stood up. "Don't listen to him." I placed the financial records on the table. "These are the transactions from your private accounts." Daniel froze. My father picked up the documents. His hands began shaking. "What is this?" Daniel tried to explain. "They're fake." I opened another folder. "These are the invoices you created." Another folder. "These are the shell companies you used." And finally, I placed the bank records in front of him. "This is where the money went." The room became completely silent. My father looked at Daniel. "You stole from me?" Daniel's face changed. "You never trusted me enough." My father stared at him in disbelief. Then Daniel pointed at me. "He ruined everything. He wanted the company." I shook my head. "No, Daniel. I wanted the truth." He looked at me with hatred. "You think you've won?" I leaned back. "No. I think you lost the moment you decided to betray your own family." My father looked at me. His voice became weak. "Why didn't you tell me?" I answered honestly. "Because you wouldn't have believed me." That sentence hurt him more than anything else I could have said. The meeting ended with Daniel being removed from the company. But I wasn't finished. I had one final thing to do. I walked through the house where I had grown up. Everything looked exactly the same. The old family photographs. My mother's favorite chair. The dining table where we used to eat together. My father stood behind me. "I was wrong," he said. I turned around. "I know." He looked ashamed. "Can you forgive me?" I took a long breath. I can forgive you, Dad. But I can't pretend nothing happened. He nodded slowly. Then he said something unexpected. Your mother would have been proud of you. For the first time that day, my eyes filled with tears. I had spent months thinking revenge meant making them suffer. But standing there, I finally understood something. The best revenge wasn't destroying the people who hurt me. It was becoming the person they could never control again. A year passed. The company changed completely under my leadership. We paid off the debts. We rebuilt the business. Employees who had once been afraid to speak finally had a voice. And for the first time, the company became profitable without lies, manipulation, or family politics. Daniel disappeared from our lives. He eventually faced legal consequences for what he had done. My father stayed in the old house alone. Sometimes he called me. Sometimes I answered. Sometimes I didn't. I wasn't trying to punish him. I was simply learning that forgiveness didn't mean giving someone permission to hurt me again. One evening, I received a message from Dad. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I want you to know that I'm proud of you. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I drove to the house. When I walked inside, my father was sitting in the same chair where he had once ordered me to leave. He looked older. Tired. Broken. I thought I lost both my sons, he said. You lost the son who betrayed you, I replied. But I'm still here. He looked at me. Why? I smiled faintly. Because Mom taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about loyalty. My father began crying. I sat beside him. We didn't talk about the past for a long time. Then he handed me an old box. Inside was a photograph of my mother, my father, Daniel, and me. On the back, my mother had written, "Always protect each other." I looked at the words and realized how far we had fallen from them. That night, I took the photograph with me. Not because I wanted to remember the betrayal, but because I wanted to remember where I came from. I never gave Daniel his position back. I never gave him control of the company. And I never allowed anyone to treat me like I was worthless again. People sometimes asked me what my greatest revenge had been. They expected me to say that I made my brother poor. Or that I destroyed my father's business. Or that I humiliated them in front of everyone. But my answer was always the same. My greatest revenge was becoming successful without becoming bitter. They kicked me out of my own home believing I had lost everything. They thought I would come back begging for forgiveness. Instead, I returned stronger, wiser, and successful enough to become their boss. But the real victory wasn't standing above them. It was standing above the pain they caused me. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't making someone regret hurting you. It's building a life so beautiful that you no longer need their apology.